It is really Tuesday, and this really is Trekland. And yes, we are live. Hey, 50 years ago, when Star Trek changed it all. Today on Trekland Tuesdays live, number 243, with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 for the big picture and clarity and sanity in all things Star Trek. For reals, here we are. 50 years ago when Star Trek changed us all. Hey, thank you for your patience. Hey, I'm hoping you're one of our regulars, and if you are, then you know the chat. The chat is forming up. We have such a great community. All the TTLers are here, going to be popping in. But if you're new to us, welcome. Thanks for dropping by, finding yourself, stumbling in, however you got here. I've got a little admission to make here, and Star Trek never ceases to amaze me. First of all, I hope our picture is better than last week. Not my fault. Finds out there's software switches. So hopefully that's a better thing than last week. We're going to be here for a little soapbox by me topic here, and then we will take a micro break. We'll look at the Parrot Analytics US top 10 ratings. And then I will dive into the chat. So Twitchers, I'm not with you right now. Twitchers and YouTubers, you're seeing it all. Facebookers, you're only seeing the Facebook, okay? You know that. And we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to talk about something that, you know what, I didn't know. I didn't realize what this week's topic would be 50 years ago when Star Trek changed us all. I was thinking there's been a lot of Star Trek news. And by now, when Trek news breaks on Wednesday and Thursday, even Tuesday afternoons, by the time we roll around to another Tuesday, everybody and their dog have talked about it. And yeah, this is a huge week. We had the calendar, but not just that, the first Picard trailer. It's all pretty exciting. And we may talk about that when we get to chat. But I was, as usual, trying to think of something that was off the radar. Maybe connect some fresh dots to you. And I was really stumped this week. I was really about to break down and talk about actual news. And then it hit me. Actually, I think somebody on Twitter poked me on this. And I was shocked. A, that it wasn't on my radar. But I don't think it's been on anyone's radar. And I can't believe it. If you check your own calendar and look back exactly 50 years, maybe you've got a hint what I'm talking about. Anybody? I'll see you the first one to claim it. No, 50 years ago, January 21st to the 23rd, 1972, was the storied and ballyhooed very first Star Trek convention, for reals. And I know some of you are going to say, but what about the one at the library in Newark across the river in March of 69? That's true. There was a free event at a Newark public library. It was free. There were no guests. It was totally fan-made. It drew about 300 people, the record tells us. There's a cover for the program out there, which presumably there's a cover. So yes. But as far as what we think, and there were skits, there was a discussion on the Star Trek phenomena in March 69, about the time of the actual cancellation, just before. Turnabout Intruder was delayed and aired in June. I know. But, and some slideshows. So early fare. But the first real convention that was started was in January 1972, this past weekend, exactly the calendar that we're on. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just like our Sunday was the 23rd. Organized by the original The Committee. And yeah, here is a flyer. Star Trek lives. Look at that. A Star Trek convention at the Statler Hilton, which was the Hotel Pennsylvania, which I finally got to go visit. Star Trek Con, P.O. Box 95, Old Chelsea Station, New York, New York. Look at this here. Late Flash. This was a hand stamp on the flyer. Gene Roddenberry will be there Saturday afternoon. Now, what's great about that first one is there were no actors. There were people New York based. The idea was just come and talk about Star Trek, even though it had been 3 years since the cancellation, nearly 3 years. It was already into the rerun phenomena, building up from the grassroots. If ever there was a grassroots movement, it was Star Trek, because these local stations were making money, realizing from the Sinclair stations example that they could make tons of money with Star Trek after school, early evening, at dinner time. Way better targeting than NBC had ever put it on in first run. And we can talk about the history of the first convention, but what I want to just say right off is, did anyone see anything about this? I'm just shocked that a 50th? A 50th? Now, we've had people on the Trek Files. I've interviewed folks who were there. No, I wasn't. I was a kid. I was stuck in the middle of the Great Plains, the Southwest. I was about to be able to get myself to Oklahoma to New York, much less even hear about it right then. In fact, truth be told, I wasn't a Trek fan at the time. It was going to take my 9th grade teachers, not my 8th grade teachers. But that's the first stumbling block. If you heard about the 50th anniversary of Star Trek Lives, the first Star Trek Con, as it's been dubbed, let me know. Let me know if you saw anybody podcast on it. Write an article. There was nothing on StarTrek.com. I don't think there was anything on the big news sites. Heaven forbid if I'm the first one to kind of mention it out loud in public. But what's amazing, a fact on the side, it's just a trivia question, is I go back to this all the time, and this didn't dawn on me until the last 5-10 years, until the pundit years here, the last 10 years, when it realized that at the same time that Comic-Con culture is so huge, and until the 50th anniversary of Trek in 2016, Trek was a tiny sliver of that, because Marvel and DC and Star Wars and go down the line, Harry Potter and Doctor Who had all taken over the slice of various Comic-Cons, of course, led by the people in capes, the people in the funny costumes. Star Trek was such a small sliver of that. But if you unwind the saga, we've talked about this on the Trek Files. It's nothing new, but the state of science fiction and fandom up until Star Trek came along was why Star Trek was such a breakout hit anyway. Filmed science fiction, with the rare occasions of a big budget movie like Day the Earth Stood Still or Forbidden Planet, or rarely on TV like Twilight Zone, The Best of the Outer Limits, maybe. You know, it was Bug-Eyed Monster. It was Screaming Girl meets Alien Monster. A guy rescues army invaders. Alien invaders, or the radiation monsters get big, and it's the 50s crazy monster movies. And it was just thoughtless, screaming, meme stuff, nothing thoughtful. Actual science fiction fans who read literature, because that's where the heart of science fiction was, were totally disdainful. It was like, oh yeah, on screen, big or small, prove it to me. I mean, that was the joke. It was the eye rolling. But the fact was that even that population was so tiny. It was so tiny in the mainstream of things that no one cared anyway. The way to make bucks if you wanted to do a sci-fi movie was to, screaming leading lady and bugify it and bug-eyed monsters the thing up. Plus, special effects were not in their envy, we'd have to say. And you really had to spend a lot of money to do real mats, real visual effects for the time, right? No Bucks, no Buck Rogers, and even Buck Rogers looks pretty thin. So, yeah, that's part of the Star Trek revolution, and that bled over to fandom to the point that when Star Trek blew up in popularity in 67, in 68, in 69, and the Trekkies descended on Sci-Fi World, Worldcon, and also the regular regional conventions that were going on then, in much fewer numbers than they are today, where, 500 would be a great turnout. And yeah, on the 60s scale of things, maybe so, but still, remember that. 500, a few hundred people would be your typical. Even the World Cons would maybe get 1,000 if they were American-sided and well-attended. But the reaction after a year or two of the Trekkie invasion, talk about gatekeeping, I used to just call it lit snobbery, but it's like, well, this is all well and good and welcome to our con, but you really need to read your there's more to science fiction than Star Trek. You really need to read your foundational authors. You really need to read your basics. you really need to read some, I don't know, some Jules Verne. You really need to read some Heinlein and, go down the list. Asimov. You need to read the modern stuff. And that was fine, but after a while that went from you really should to we're being inundated when they were being, it's kind of like, the invasion, to the point where the advice became, why don't you guys go to your own conventions? And guess what? That's what they did. Starting with the infamous the committee convention in New York. And that's where January 1972 comes from. And aside, again, from history, that was significant, that was the first, now we look back, 20 years, we'd say that was the first MediaCon, media conventions, which were sci-fi in media, not just on the pages of a book or a comic. MediaCons is basically now what we call our Comic-Con culture. And our Comic-Con culture came out of the fact that pure comic conventions, mainly guys looking through dusty boxes of comics with artists on stage. When that went to Hollywood, everything magnifies once you're in front of a camera. Everything, even when you're writing a book, if it's a book about TV and film, the pictures will win out. And if you've heard the story of the first TNG companion, I've told you that story. But yeah, basically it's the kids got bigger than the parents. The first Star Trek con, and here's a look back. The Star Trek con, first one, they planned for 500 people based on that flyer. They had a reporter in Variety do a story. And of course, Variety at the time only had 20, 30,000 circulation, but it was both coasts. It was all over it was there. And then Variety stories got picked up. The New Jersey newspaper did a story. They had 6 million. So from that 500, they wound up with 3,000, and we stopped counting. And then after that happened, then you've got an annual thing. This is amazing. So 3,000 that first year, planning for 500. You can imagine what that did for all the prepackaged, the programs and the packets and everything. It was crazy, much less the fire marshal. The next year they had 6,000. The next year, 15,000. And 6,000 turned away because it got to crisis stage and the fire marshal showed up midway through. The main room crowd almost surged forward at the end of the main actor Q&A. And then the next year, that group, that committee, aside from springing up after 4 years, all kinds of copycats all over the country, which is fine, Chicago and Houston and LA and also in New York, because there'd been a split in that original committee. And the commercial aspects seen through the visage of Hal Schuster, who was a dealer, had competing conventions, and now we're off and running, and now we're getting into turf wars and all that. But that last year, they limited membership. The original committee's con in 75 went to limited to 8,000. So to go from planning for 5, getting 3, 6, 15, with 6,000 documented, turned away, and then 8,000 limited at the same time. Now their formula for success is being copied all over the place and around the country. But that's not only what set Star Trek fandom off and running on the public zeitgeist, but also, oh, look, somebody's making money at this thing. All that people power is out there. The locals, somebody started to put the dots together. Local reruns, these conventions are big splashy shows. 74, 75, what's going on in publishing world by then? Well, the Alan Dean Foster books are continuing, the novelizations of the original scripts in short story form, but also the animated series now. Did I say Alan Dean Foster? James Blish doing the original series, Alan Dean Foster doing the novels of the animated series, even doing, by the end, a full-blown novel length out of 130-minute script, 22-minute script. And then, of course, the original Franz Joseph Schnabel blueprints of the Enterprise and the tech manual ignited the book world on fire, showed the dollar potential and the numbers going on, and that got the wheels running. And Paramount was ahead of that, Dancing with Gene on, all the Rebirth stuff happened, but it all goes back to that first movie. And that's just the Star Trek scope. That's what helped George Lucas get his funding for Star Wars. Boom, now we're in the sci-fi boom. and things are off and running. And eventually, it lifts all boats of all genre entertainment. And then we set the stage. We light the match for what happened with Twilight and Comic-Con San Diego blowing up, and that becoming a thing on the radar. You roll it all the way back. What busted sci-fi fandom and its visibility out of the gate? It's this January 1972 convention, the committee. Just as a fun thing, it's not on the flyer. The flyer, although I also want to say, do you notice the flyer says, "Everybody welcome"? Star Trek fandom, you've been nice from the beginning. Only Star Trek fans allowed. No. Here's the deal. So at that first convention, the pre-reg price was $2.50. The door admission was $3.50, as long as they were even trying to bother with it. A table, a dealer's table or a huckster's table, was $15. Now, I did a little inflation calculation. So the pre-reg for this 3 days, now no actors, but if you had Star Trek Lives, the chapter where Joan Winston writes about who was on the committee, famously visited the last week of shooting on Turnabout Intruder, used her perch as an ABXZ executive in New York, who was a huge fan. Yeah, don't tell me there were no girl fans. Don't tell me that. She famously wrote a chapter about being on the Turnabout Intruder set the last week, and then wrote another chapter in Star Trek Live. She was the guest author with Marshak and Lichtenberg there of that first convention. Because of the success of that book, 70s wrote The Making of Star Trek Conventions, where she does a recap on the first year and then goes through these other years that we talk about. And she's kind of a primary source, although there's plenty of other folks to talk about. But it's fun to remember that first year, Gene and Majel were late ads. But in 72, the guests were Isaac Asimov and Hal Clements. They had New York-ish based sci-fi writers, whether or not they'd written for Star Trek or not. I'm trying to see here real quick. Oscar Katz, who, remember Oscar, Where Are You? Who famously was the guy who hired Herb Solo, who was the young blood who got Star Trek and Mission sold to NBC and CBS. Then he went back to New York with CBS and came over and talked about the selling of Star Trek. Oscar Katz did 2 years of convention appearances back in the day. The rest of the guest bill was, and I am looking here real quickly. Come on. Oh, Gene. I mentioned Gene and Majel. That was it. That was your star guest lineup in the first year. Now, Gene, Majel were back. All the rest, including Leonard eventually, who was a surprise guest and came over from a play a couple of years later and shocked the world. That was your viral moment before it could be viral. Yeah, everybody was there eventually. Shatner, Nimoy, all the rest. And some of the guest stars. But that first year was no good. It showed the appeal of Star Trek, even without headliners to be there and these small prices, which even when Joan wrote her book 4 years later was laughing at how cheap the prices had been in 72. So it's, the first con is amazing for its, as a historical trivia question. Yeah. But look what it unleashed, this budding power. It was kind of a generation gap era youth movement, baby boomer unleashed power in the 70s. But it also something else, the power of the imagination, the stodgy old limits and parameters of entertainment. There was a freshness and an excitement that was ready to bust loose. And also it's heralding a lot of it was a time of social change. We'd already been through the first wave of the civil rights movement. Women's lib was very much in full flower. The eco movement, the green movement, the first Earth Day had just happened in 1970. All these movements in the old order was about to be upheavaled. And even though Star Trek was an old series, in fact, it's amazing to read that Joan has the fully reprinted, with permission, story that had been in Variety. It's fun to watch them talk about Star Trek being an old an old series, being 3 years old, canceled. Also, the TV Guide story is in here. Yeah, I want to find this. Star Trek Conclave in New York looms as mix of campy set and sci-fi buffs. How quickly they forget. This is by Frank Berman, no relation. How quickly they forget is not a statement that can be made about fans of NBC TV's old series Star Trek. The device of the sci-fi scan in 1969 brought some bitter attacks on the network, mostly from high school and college students. But it was off the schedule that fall, nonetheless. Yeah. So far, there is an advanced registration of over 700, and 15 to 2,000 are expected to show up for the bash, which will run this weekend at the Statler Hill. Talking about Joan Winston being Miss Winston, because it was New York media. William Shatner won't be there, and he's apologizing for his TV movie The People running during Saturday prime time. It's really a long thing. Calls it a camp meeting. The Trading Post concept, which was the dealer's room. Yeah. Yep. It's just amazing. I mean, it's fun to go back and read those clips about I don't want to say the naivete, but the simpler, gentler times. And then to see how fast all that changed. And within 2 or 3 or 4 years, money and power and numbers begets infighting and turfing and copycatting and, spreading. So it's a backhanded compliment. But again, it was what it was. It was not the first. It sounds like the interracial kiss debate, which isn't really a debate. It's just how are you going to define the parameters? Yeah, the thing in Newark a couple of years before at the library, 300 people, skits. But this also marks the marriage NASA sent full-scale lunar module displays that they had to assemble once it got there, which they hadn't planned on. They were thinking, brochures and photos. It was an amazing. It's one of those watershed moments. I've talked to some of the folks that were there. I've got interviews I should post. We should do more of this on the Trek Files to what we've already done. I urge you to go back and find the back catalog. But I'm just taking a moment right here, as much as we're all forward focused on all the new Trek, a whole year of fresh Trek coming up, and the amazing trailer for season 2 of Picard. People are so excited. Prodigy is just bubbling over with way more than people were expecting. Of course, Discovery's got to wrap up its intriguing season. I'm thrilled to see so many of the creatives who work on the shows have grown up in the digital era, and they're out there talking and sharing, and we're out of the clam up stage of early Discovery years. That's exciting. But I can't believe no one mentioned the 50th. We're so anniversary crazy. I can't believe no one mentioned the 50th anniversary of Star Trek Lives, the first Star Trek con, New York, that set not only Star Trek's revival and fandom back, but gave us Comic-Con culture. If you got a competing opinion, let me know. I'm not trying to. That first convention is the crown of so much anyway. But I think in a larger picture, it really broke open the mold for what pop culture could do and be to audiences of whatever age. They love to talk about those kids in the 70s, but you know what? Those kids are the old fogies now, and we've had 2 or 3 generations of kids since then, or we didn't. And that became worrying. And now, thanks to Prodigy and just this full buffet of Star Trek, I think we're going to get the kids back. This era's kids anyway. And we won't have to grow them ourselves. And hey, with that Playmates announcement, just having action figures back, Target and Walmart, and wherever you may get your toys, that's reassuring too. Very reassuring. So yeah, we can take a moment to look back, but also look around today. What? Everybody was asleep? The anniversary internet machine didn't latch onto that? I'm shocked. So there we go. I've done my part. So if you're leaving us right now, I want to say, first off, thanks for our Patreon folk, our TTL Club and our live wires. Thank you guys for helping bring this and some of the growth we're going to have this year. Hang on, everybody. We'll be back after this. We'll get back into the chat after we look at the parrots too. So dwell on that. Did I bring anything up for you? Did I conjure up any thoughts there? Had you thought about the direct line between the first TrekCon and our Comic-Con crazy, we don't have to be in the closet anymore? Hey, there were 10, 20 years there of a lot of geek nerd closet dwellers. Not so much anymore. Now, the tourism and trade committees, the Chamber of Commerce, come after you if they hear you're putting on a con in their little burg. And they want to help you with the sales tax and the hotel motel tax that might bring into their little town. So yeah, things have changed just a tad since then. It's one thing to say the geeks won, but let's look at what that actually means. So I'm curious to see what's going to come up in the chat. But again, as I said, I want to thank all of our Patreons for the moment here. Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, and Marie Siegel, Keith Rombach, Justin Porteous, Nathaniel Robinson, and Blaze K. And our live wires, Rusty Harrell, Halbert Gunn Johnson, Jalen Bullock, Robert McLean, Alan Hoensi, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, Dave Gregory, and Casey Shafsky. Thanks so much, everybody. If you want to see what that's all about, check it out. This is the end of the month. They'll be collecting this patreon.com/Trekland Live, just a $5 and a $10. You can go. We have some Patreons who have not been limited to $10 if you really feel like it. If you go much more than that, though, I just say go ahead and jump into Portal with us every month, and we'll deep dive that way. But thanks to all of our Patreons who are doing that. Check it out. 2 levels. Well, there we go. The Trek Files is still on hiatus. We'll be back in February. We'll have a little bit of news along with our first shows too, but we just had our 4th anniversary. If you're following me on any socials, we throw up a little celebration plug. It's been 4 years ago, the 23rd. Amazing. We've done 7 seasons, about to start season 8. So thanks everybody for your support over there on Facebook. Make sure and like and subscribe on the page. Thanks for everybody who dropped by Live Support Live with us every Saturday, 10 a.m. Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern. Dr. Ali and Dr. Trek. One of us is a real doctor, actually, going boldly through uncertain times. Check that out, too. And again, saying socials, if you're following along, it's Larry Nemecek's Trekland. Facebook, YouTube, where you are right now, and Instagram. Would love to have you there. Please subscribe on YouTube if you can. And Larry Nemecek on Twitter. Portal47.net is our deepest dive of the year so far, the way we do it every month several times with the Portales. We've got guest night this week, and even they don't know that our guest this week is going to be the great guru of promotion and documentary, the first 20, 30 years of Star Trek, Don Beck, who was a guest on the Trek Files 2 or 3 times in our limited little 15, 20-minute format. But now, you have not lived until you've heard Don Beck alive, but live and unencumbered by time limits. Once he gets rolling with a story, you're going to be there. His stories and unfettered, blunt opinions about the 80s and the 90s and the things you remember of being the between the lines Star Trek, promotion, distribution, early days of UPN, the early DVDs and videotapes, and even amazing stories about selling Next Generation in a world where that model didn't exist. He had a front row seat for a lot of amazing years, and just documenting Star Trek. The TV specials about Star Trek you saw, that's Don. Can't wait for that. And that's our Portal 47 guest this month. So thanks so much for everybody who's been with us today. If you're leaving us, as in you're watching this on YouTube later, what can I say, gang? Oh, no, I have one more thing to do. Before we say goodbye, yikes, I'm going to open up another unboxing. Here's another unheralded unboxing. And part of this is, well, if you were with us last week, you'll know. But I want to open up. I almost want to open this up as if it's for the first time. But I'm so excited. Got a book you may have heard of. I've got it in this bit here. We're going to get into it. Yes. I did that totally off camera, didn't I? Let's do this in the lap. Hey, have you heard about this? The Discovery Book of Grudge? Surely you know about Queen Grudge, the cat, Book's cat on Discovery. She's a feline waiting to have an empire. I'm so sad we weren't at this stage in the 90s. Spot deserved all this. Spot was actually Monster and Brandy. The active Spot and passive Spot. Grudge, well, the persona of Grudge is amazing. So Rob Perlman, this is from here, our friends at Hero Collector. They don't just do little starships and magazines. They have a book line going. You've seen that, the white covers. Voyager's been done, the original series, different writers. Well, the Book of Grudge is from Hero Collector, but Rob Perlman is the author. He's done a lot of the fun books, the Fun with Dick and Spot, Fun with Dick and Jane. Fun with Kirk and Spock, which is a takeoff on the old Dick and Jane books. The Red Shirt's Guide to Survival. All kinds of fun little books. This is not a little book. See, it's hardback. And I know we're past the holidays, but if you've got a friend who's a cat lover, if you've got a Star Trek friend who's a cat lover, this would be awesome. And you know what? It occurred to me, what better way to spread Star Trek marketing than to slip this into the cat lover's gift basket that you know who isn't a Star Trek fan, because there's a lot of great photography. Somebody was on set doing, well, also cartoon. See, but it's Grudge the cat on Starfleet. See, Grudge on Universal Translators. There's some really clever stuff here. Grudge on the Datasphere, and I think in the back there's even one here on, well, Grudge on Dogs and Grudge on Spot. I don't know her. Ooh, spoilers. Anyway, it's a great little book. It's not just jokes and pictures. It's really the persona of the Queen. Rob's done another great job. It's a fun gift. You can find it anywhere. Of course, get it on Amazon. This is also great. Talk about expanding the base. This is great. Whether you're doing, brick and mortar shopping, it still exists. It's making a comeback. COVID be damned. It's still there. They're hanging in there. Or if you're looking at your, Amazon queue or Barnes and Noble online queue, wherever fine books are sold online, having it in the queue, turning up with the algorithms, is also a great way to spread Star Trek among the cat world. So think about it. Do it. I enjoyed it. It's a ton of fun. I'm a reformed cat person because I grew up as a dog person until we had our dear Schneider for about 13, 14 years. Who was my dog cat. Not quite a Grudge, thank goodness. But Grudge is Grudge, and no one can doubt that. So everybody, give a look. Get one for yourself. If you know a cat person, here's your chance. Here's your chance to evangelize Star Trek. Sneak it in there. Be subversive. The Book of Grudge by Rob Perlman from Hero Collector. It's a lot of fun. All right, now we will take a very micro quick break here and say thanks, everybody. Hey, if we're leaving you now, seriously, stay healthy, do all the things, stay woke. And by that, I mean, check out the sources of what you read, check out the ID of that person screaming at you online. I want to do a topic in coming weeks about if we're really in a shift or not, what's going on, because fandom is such a bubble of the greater world outside. I'm really curious about this. But as always, be safe out there, but also be ready to take in information when you know it's legit. I guess what I'm saying, everybody, is, trek well. Okay. Boom. Let us look at the Parrot Analytics. And if we do have some new folks on here, and again, just a couple more minutes, and then we'll get to the chat. We still, some things the same, some things are different, which I guess is is the world at large. Hey, this week, the Parrot Analytics, which company out of New Jersey, New Zealand, original. I've got New Jersey on my mind there with the first library con. No, New Zealand begat this company, Parrot Analytics, who's now operating out of the States, who measure around the world, country by country, the digital program world, because the old Nielsen's that evolved and their predecessors out of radio into network TV, the business model shot because there's no commercials to judge ad rates for, that the public awareness of numbers is a thing anymore. And I know some of you are sitting through commercials on some of these paid streams, but still, looking at the digital only world this week, their metric they call average demand expressions, which is how it turns up on the internet by fans, by critics, by the studio promo machine. And this week, measured as a factor times the average popular show, the top 10 in the States was Cobra Kai, 64 times more popular than the average, nearly 65, which is on a high. The Witcher, The Book of Boba Fett, hanging in there. Mandalorian, Stranger Things, The Expanse, in wrapping up. Peacemaker, Hawkeye, Titans, and Ted Lasso for the top 10. You got Netflix and Disney Prime and HBO in there twice, with Peacemaker and Titans. Peacemaker making a lot of waves. And Apple's got Ted Lasso. That's the digital only shows. Again, the top 10 in the US. The number 10, Ted, is at 28.1 times more popular than the average show. These are all that's barely into the outstanding category, which, remember, that's about the top 2.5% of everybody. The overalls are SpongeBob, back to normal, then Cobra Kai, digital only, then Saturday Night Live, Euphoria, then The Witcher, Attack on Titan, South Park, Game of Thrones, The Book of Boba Fett, and My Hero Academia, top 10 overall there at 39.5 times more popular than the average show. Where does that leave our Star Trekkers? Prodigy, which is currently the current runner, you would think was freshest, it is at 15.7. So if not in the next 20, probably the top of that. We'll see. And we'll see what happens with the finale back-to-back 2-part episode that's going to be airing here in a couple of days in the US, and then a day later in Canada. But it's sitting at 15.7. Now, overall, the change in demand is up 15.8, and its trend line over 60 days is up the way they measure. And it's still sitting at 95.5% more popular than the average action-adventure genre. Over 30 days, it's still more popular than 95.5% of all other action-adventure dramas. Discovery, which we're waiting to come back, is sitting at 20.8 times more popular than the average show. So it's the bias of live action over animation, even though it's not currently putting out fresh. There you go. Now, what's weird is the change in demand over the last 30 days has gone down 15.5, but the trend line has ticked up over 60 days. I know there's math behind that, but it's interesting. And Discovery is 99.6% more popular than every other drama genre title. So there you go. So they're just out of the top 10. I thought I'd seen some big movement for Prodigy this year, but this week, but it's not showing up. It's not showing up. So there's your parrots. Will we ever get one of the animateds back into the top 10? We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens if this 2-parter, if Prodigy keeps developing and evolving, and we get more kids. See, the kids' audience, though, how many 8 and 10 and 12? Some are. But they're kind of hampered as far as having an online presence on socials if their parents are keeping an eye on them. So that might be a little trailing edge to the whole phenomenon. And it may depend on the adults doing the talking. So that's another aspect of following Prodigy versus all the other Trek series on, say, the Parrots. We'll see. We'll see. So now I'm so thrilled and anxious to get back and see what's going on with everybody this week. So yes, I'm back scrolling to the start of the show, but we'll catch up. We'll catch up really good. As we know it. Yes, it's the reality. It's Star Trek as we know it. Hey everybody, and we're global. If you're new to Tuesdays Live and everything in Trekland, you'll know that we try to go as global as we can, which is a great eye opener for everybody. So howdy to everybody who's with us. If I see a new name or somebody who hasn't been with us for a long time, I'll try to say hi. I'm looking for questions, but we eventually devolve into conversation threads. I know. So we are backtracking. And just so you all know, apparently sometime in the week before, last week, Firefox and Restream did not get along. You get a picture, but it's not great. They still say that, but something happened somewhere. So I'm on Chrome today, and that's been the fix. But they're not aware of what's going on. They can't explain it. And Cairo, yeah. We can talk about all this kind of thing. STO right now with the real Kate Mulgrew voicing a real Janeway. She's as real as you want, to quote Vina-ish. Well, Christoph, when I have a few million to put into my stream to match Discovery, then I'll celebrate that day. Yep. Let's see. And just if you're new to us, we've got Narda in from the outback of Australia. So hi, Narda. That's interesting. Really? Did this keep going, Glenn? About every 2 minutes, there's this 1 second pause where it's waiting for a live signal. That's interesting. Justin. I agree, Justin. Thank you. You're a commentator, not a tech support. You made a pretty good McCoy joke. We'll accept it. I might even put it on the big board. Let's see. Hi, howdy, David. One of our newest live wires. Wow. Yes. I didn't know he had mentioned it publicly now, and they have good. They're optimistic about the treatment. So there you go. We're all hoping for Dougie, especially now that he's still getting Star Trek work. Yeah. A convention. Where are we there? Convention in a library. Cool. Well, it was like, a Star Trek event, a program of events in a library that just had 300 people. And that was in the 60s in urban New Jersey. So I've spoken in libraries before. You're hard to get 20 people. Of course, that's me, and that's these days versus something boom that was a exploding cultural phenomenon that no one had yet to see the limits of. It was birthing. No, they're tearing down. No, say it ain't so. I walked through there when I was there for Big Apple Con. I finally took pictures and walked through. They say the Statler Hilton for years and the Hotel Pennsylvania, but the Hotel Pennsylvania and the Cafe Rouge is where Glenn Miller played. That's Pennsylvania 65000. That's a sad thing. I'll have to check on that. Damn it. I'm surprised some historical organization hasn't jumped in, or maybe they've been through all that. Well, this is an understatement, Cairo. There was a time when conventions were a bit different to the Vegas and whatever Chicago. The conventions were new. You were in a hotel because there were only going to be 2 or 3 or 4 or 500 people. And even the World Cons, you just were in a big hotel. World Cons are supposed to be the big. I remember the first time I realized that your average Star Trek convention totally dwarfed a World Con, and that was always held up as the end all be all because people in lit fandom, they were building their World Con resumes. Heaven forbid you stain it with a media person. Oh, that's so funny. Well, you know what? The time I was there, I walked the Cafe Rouge area was closed and empty, but I walked all over the place looking to see how it how it looked and felt and walked through. Oh boy. As a journalist, hey Captain, what were the first reviews about Trek? Well, the famous one is Cleveland Amory for years wrote the reviews in TV Guide, As I See It. And he very famously, I think the episode he reviewed of Star Trek, now we read it and it was Shore Leave, and he was like guffawing at Shore Leave. And he got a letter, I think Gene wrote him privately and said, would you please take another look? I don't know. I forget what the second episode was, if it was City, Sitting on the Edge, or just another episode or a couple. But Cleveland Amory very famously went back and undid his original assessment of Star Trek later on in the first year. So that was like a little victory that they had won him over. But he was when I was a kid growing up, Cleveland Amory wrote them for years and years and years and years and years in TV Guide, which was, the way mass mainstream America saw. There were TV critics in some of the big papers. And, if you were a medium-sized paper, you might have one too, or a critic at large. It had reactions all over the place, but yeah, there's archives. People are trying to go back and find, varying reactions to Star Trek. But that was a very influential voice, and it was a big thing when Cleveland Amory came back around and do it. I remember watching and reading that. It's in some of the early Star Trek books about that turnaround. Apparently it was pretty, yeah, that's kind of what you expect. Yeah. Yeah, Narda. I mean, I think everybody in fandom has kind of heard something about the first Trek convention in New York. I was mainly just shocked that no one was marking the anniversary. We're so anniversary happy. How Star Trek, I did a Tuesdays Live about how we love our anniversaries, especially when you have multiple ones. Last year was the king of anniversary years. By the time you look at Star Trek, 4 and 6, and all the 6 and 1 years. Star Trek's year is 6 anyway. Star Trek's number's got to be 6. 1966, 86, 96. Yeah. And then we had the 50th in 2016. Hey, nothing against Buck Rogers. Yeah. Hello, Brandy. I think you are new with us, so welcome. Welcome. Glad you said hi. This is a 50th. Hey, Christoph. This is an anniversary of the 50th anniversary story of the first convention, because you can read about the first convention in several places online. Wikipedia and Memory Alpha and Fan Lore all have some kind of a story about the first, and then the committee's conventions and the beginning of convention fandom. But I'm talking about somebody writing about it's been 50 years. I'm just shocked. Jarrod, don't get yourself in trouble, but glad to see you. Oh, sorry to, yeah. I think there may be more of you than you're thinking. Yep, I know people, if they didn't declare bankruptcy, they lost homes and businesses. Big John McDonald in Houston took the financial fallout from the Con of Wrath, the ultimate fantasy. I know that. Anyway, you're bouncing back. Working hard to do it, but you're bouncing back. And yeah, we have several recovering fan promoters. Justin, glad you're still with us too. Hey, Sin, my gosh, I'm glad to see you again, girl. Enjoying all the Trek smorgasbord, if you will. The Trek smorgasbord. Oh, thank you, Sin. I hope I see you hopefully this year at SoonerCon in June. Hopefully we're having it. There you go. Due to attending conventions. Oh, Glenn. Okay, well, I'm glad you're still with us too. Well, Asimov started off, we have the letters. We need to do this in Trek Files. I have them lined up. Asimov started off not being a fan of Star Trek, and Gene worked on him. And then they appeared. In fact, they talked, I think, that this convention where they were there together, they found each other, and Gene started to work on him. And they became good friends. And then that's why all the Asimov love for positronic and robotic clone artificial intelligence that you see starting with Data. And the positronic brain, which is an Asimov word. Totally do that. I missed this. Someone's going to tell me why you all mentioned 700. Was that the attendance at something? Not sure. Where are these nerds now? They'd be in their 70s. Yes, Melanie, and I've talked to several of them, and I have interviews, and I should post 2 or 3. Some of them actually live in the Midwest, and I've talked to at SoonerCon, which is kind of amazing. But forget all this. The important question here, John X wants to know, is did anyone order a new Playmates figure yet? Yeah. Yeah, Jason, there will be many, many new fans at Star Trek conventions soon, and some of them on the younger end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. You were at the 50th in Birmingham, the DST 50th. A lot of us were at Vegas, and there was a Mission New York, Reed Pop's first time out to try to do a licensed TrekCon. So a lot of people think of the 50th of the anniversary of the show, and there was 50 Fever. This was the year before I started live streaming, though, so there's not a lot of this here. But boy, we talked about it on my blog. We talked about 50 Fever and the live events. This is it, Cairo. Who would have guessed it? Who would have guessed it? Oh, Captain Calvin, I would assume, I don't know about how Europe is doing with Amazon Access, but I'm sure they'll be out there very soon. You betcha, John. Don Beck did those docs too. Yep. And Beckola, that was the name of his company. Beckola, like Moviola. And then later on, Toolbox Productions. But yeah, several of this from one saga to the next, when they had D. Kelly, the one where Gene is introducing the show, they got him filming walking around. Mm-hmm. TTF is the Trek Files. TTL is Trekland Tuesdays Live. I get them. There are times when I mess them up too. Grudge. Yes. Wow, we're already to the ending. Okay. Yes, she's a killer queen. Yeah, I'm holding a grudge, a book of Grudge, actually. I think I've read this. I don't know off the tip of my tongue yet because I haven't interviewed them or delved into it. That's a standard. That's like having 2 babies, twin kids if you can, but twin animals or look-alike animals. Porthos was, oh my gosh. Spot was Monster and Brandy. Monster was active Spot. Brandy was passive Spot. And I've just gone blank on Porthos. Oh, Wendy and Breezy. Yeah. With new ones coming along. Grudge needs to make a con appearance. I totally agree. And if she is Toronto-ish based, maybe that's a thing for Chicago. Maybe that's a thing for Chicago. Yeah, let's see. Jason, I told the Spot owners that they needed to get, I'm sorry, I told Breezy's owners that they needed to get her to Vegas in the Porthos days of Enterprise. I have a potograph that I've shared at times, and I used to have it on my table at conventions. I have a potograph they made me after I did the interview with her handler and in Monster, but they never did. I think it's a natural. I think it's especially when these animals have their own special outfit. When they become a big star animal, they have their own van that they travel to set with. They could easily get to at least a regional convention from wherever their home is in fine luxury and live just fine while they're at the hotel. Absolutely. Yes. Guys, this was my idea 20 years ago. No one listened. Couldn't talk them into it. They didn't get it. But absolutely, you don't think that it would have sold 1 million 20 years ago, much less today. Good Lord. She could photograph books as well as photographs. Oh. Yeah, okay. I'm glad we got the queen. Glad we got the queen going. Yep. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, the book was actually written by Grudge as told by Rob. Yes. Absolutely. Thank you for that clarification there, Cairo. We have to remember that. Let's see. What's looking for questions? Looking for questions. Which one would attend? One for autographs and one for photo ops. Yeah, the one that's stiller would do photo ops, and the one that's more active would want to do that. Oh, this would be funny. You're hoping Grudge turns out to be from the same planet as Isis. Well, we haven't seen Grudge morph yet. It hasn't transformed, so we'll shapeshift. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Even Spot was fluid on gender, thanks to sloppy oversight by Brandon. It wasn't sloppy. Brandon's like, no one's paying attention. I want a litter of kittens on the way. No one's paying attention. Oh, Brandon, that's gonna be my new phrase. Oh, Brandon. Yep. Oh, the Discovery does D&D. Yeah, Noah's stream. Very good. Very good. Oh, did I freeze on dogs? I hope I unfroze. Yeah. Yep. Oh, I'd forgotten this. The UK first saw Star Trek the week before Apollo 11. Well, that was good timing. Had everybody in a space mood. Hi, Dawn. Is the TAS cat in the book? I had not. Are you talking about the Kazinti or the Vidala? Where did I just do with it? Erg. Oh, I think I put it back. Why did I put it back in the envelope? I don't know. I could sit here and look through. There's not an index that I just. There are some illustrations in here to kind of bulk out the. There are a couple of illustrations, but most of it is direct photographs. I don't see any. I don't see first mention. I don't see any animated series cats or cat people or cat felinoids. You talking about Maress as the Cation? Much less. No, I don't see Maress in there. I don't know if that was quite on Rob's radar or Queen's radar anyway. But of course, we know Cations are still around. At least they were in the 2360s. Let's see. Questions. Or couldn't Grudge be the very same cat from Assignment Earth, Isis, with 9 lives and some time travel? She's kind of gray tabbied out, or specied out from the basic black, right? Thank you for sharing this. It's in the chat too, Cairo. Rob did another interview with Grudge, which was at StarTrek.com. Hey, Captain Calvin, this is, you have your fair share of a-holes in every fandom, every pursuit. I think the ladies every other Thursday quilt making guild probably has one or two across the country. Anyway, before the new shows and film, well, it's a case where people love the thing they love so much they're very scared of changes or backsteps, and they want to fight the things that might water down what they're thinking of instead of seeing the embracing. Two things: they've got blinders on about seeing the new, and they've got aft blinders about remembering. It's the rose-colored glasses, remembering all the hiccups and bumps along the way. I do. I mean, that can only, unless you're really well read and you got people writing about it, that only goes back to your own experience level. So I have to hear about people talking about hating the third season because of Spock's bastardization versus the first two seasons. I have to hear about that to have any clue about, read about it. And I read about that was still fresh in the 80s. So I got it secondhand. Wasn't watching it fly by like, say, the beginnings of Next Gen and all the people that hated those imposters who weren't going to take Star Trek away from their Star Trek heroes. I don't know who these people are. A bald British guy? Come on, guys. Yeah. But true, every fandom, because every fandom is a microcosm of the greater population. The next Doctor after Jodie Foster is Grudge. Isis and Grudge, two felines who left their husbands and struck out on their own. That would be interesting. Excuse me. Did Isis, that was not an editorial comment, John. Did Isis make the leap through the temporal, somehow get into the 32nd century as well? I don't know. Glenn, you predict that Picard season 2 will hit the top 10 in the parrots and Strange New Worlds will crack the top 10 overall. The live actions, at least for some weeks, have all done that. Although I don't think Picard, now I've got to remember, I don't think Picard did, which was kind of upsetting. But we'll see. I think it did. I'll have to go back and check. Let's see. Actual questions. Oh, maybe her Katra changed host bodies, and that's where we got to. We'll see. You lost video? Surely not. Hopefully I came back. Good. I guess we were solid then. Yay. Well, Glenn, if SpongeBob stays number one, that would include that kids or parents of young kids are actually dominating the parrots. That's true, but it's kind of like My Little Pony. How do we know that the majority audience for SpongeBob isn't adults? I'm sure somewhere there's demographics that would reveal that. I'm sure they're very keen on having demos about what to do with SpongeBob. Yeah. Excuse me, gang. I don't know why. It's not you all. I don't know what's going on. STO, Star Trek Online game, is going deep. Single mission. You've got Janeway. I saw that. Admiral Lita and Tilly with original voices and a TMP deja vu. Well. Why, thank you, John X. I've been scrubbing with my acne medication. Thank goodness. Let's see. Hey now. Dave's Trek Trivia Headspace. Hi, Dave. Welcome to us from YouTube. Yay. The occasional pauses are still happening, with face and voice now being out of sync. Oh no, are we really out of sync? Okay. We'll have to check. And see. Something has made everything a little more skittish. Oh, let's see. Okay, maybe it's just wherever you are. We will see. Thanks, guys. Thanks for giving me the feedback here on the message end. Jim, oh no, you're sick. At least hearing a Trekland live has made it better. Well, we're glad. Get better, man. I hope it's nothing too serious and you're just down for a little bit, or back as soon as possible. But thanks for letting us brighten your day if we were able to do that. So yay. Hope I took lots of pictures. Well, I don't know, probably 12, 15. I didn't want to waste too much film. I'll have to go back and see all that now. Yikes, that was 3-4 years ago. That's just a bummer. I would have thought that was historical enough they could have just kept renovating it and keeping the historical. Oh boy. Okay, interesting crosstalk here. Hey, Ron. Howdy, howdy. Glad you're in with us too. Okay, thank you, Christoph. Oh, okay, so it was a 50th anniversary. Good, good, good. Okay. That's what I thought. That's actually what I thought. I'm talking about that's a rarity. So, yay, somebody did do that. If the captain, if the playmates are as well articulated as the ones in the 90s, you will happily buy them. I think that's the truth. I think they're totally doing that. Update on SoonerCon. Hey, William, if there is a SoonerCon, I will be there. It will be a big one. But the last I heard is all systems are go. Absolutely. And the thing I read out loud was there's something about 7. Oh, you mean attendance for the no, oh, I see what you're saying. No, the Variety reporter writing a story on the Wednesday before the Friday opening said that they'd had 700 preregs at the time he spoke to. So if he talked to somebody from the convention within 24 hours. So on Tuesday-ish, Wednesday-ish, they had 700 preregs. So they were already over what they had planned on and knew that there would be even more coming that weren't bothering to pre-reg, that didn't care about paying $1 more at the door. Yes. Oh my gosh, Melanie, I remember seeing that Red Hour Festival advertised in Starlog's convention list. What city was that in? Hmm. Yeah, it's almost an industry standard to have, because if you lose one animal, if one animal gets sick and can't film, or God forbid one of the animals dies, now you've got nothing as a backup, and you're running, or you can't match. I mean, the secondary, there was an original, Prada was the original Porthos, but was kind of old and wasn't as young and springy and bouncy that they wanted. So they forever and ever took non-toxic dyes and would dye breezy a little bit to match Prada or to match the original Porthos, which is amazing. That's where we got to. Is there any footage? Yeah, is there any footage of that? I bet there is somewhere. And they look a lot different. There you go. Everybody talking about your first cons. That's cool. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he is, but I don't ask. Maybe somebody else has. Hey, Justin, I have a couple of book ideas that I've been sitting on for a long time, but I told myself ages ago I wasn't going to get distracted by a book project until I got the documentary finished. So that explains part of that. But I've got one or two things sitting that I need to do. Documentary be damned. I've just been trying to build up Portal 47 and the Trekland Treks as a viable day-to-day, month-to-month business before I got distracted on these one-off projects, which are cool and shiny, and they'll sit on a shelf. We're going to update Stellar Cartography. Hopefully at some point, that'll be a big project. But thank you for asking. There is a 3 people are co-writing a new update, kind of a next gen. They're not calling it a companion, so I'm confused, but they're writing basically doing what I would have loved to have done, which was update companion through the years. They're kind of doing a fresh start on that because I have tons of material to do, but the old printing ways, nobody wants to tear up and relay out a book from scratch, which is a little bit annoying. So anyway, there we go. Where are we here? But thanks for asking. You all will be the first to know, basically. Um, oh, okay. You speak of authority there, Melanie. All animals have katras. All right. You need that book. Oh, yes, you do, Diana. Yes, you do. Yeah, the Book of Grudge. You and your 5 closest friends all need that book. And somebody tell Rob that I said so. Well, hey, Rose. Stingray, I'm sorry. The heart and soul of Trek is on TV. Why do I think Star Trek's one of the few TV shows that can work in movies like Mission Impossible and The Naked Gun? That's an interesting mix. While others like Car 54 and Uncle and the Honeymooners fails. Uncle deserved to be a movie, but they never got out of Elia and Robert Vaughn. Elia wound up being Ducky. They did do TV movies of Uncle after the fact, and then there was a big budget movie. That's maybe what you're talking about. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, we had high hopes for the Uncle movie. Honeymooners, I'm trying to remember. Sometimes it's just the casting. Sometimes they tried to make a movie out of Bewitched and totally gave it a very meta, like snarky attitude, and it failed because people just want the thing that made it what it was. And if anything, that's what it is. It's what's the purity. It's also who's making the creative choices as producer and writer and director, and who are the stars, and all of those kind of intangibles too. Yeah, I know. My parents were French. I was born in French. I was born in Le Bar. So why do I have a British accent? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I blithely mentioned the Picard trailer. I'm assuming everybody has seen the Picard trailer with Q and Guinan and Nova class ships and maybe a steam runner. An amazing trailer. Oh, okay. There we go. Yep. Thank you all for the reports back on the video. Thank you. Must have been just individual folks. So hopefully individuals, I hope your things get into going on. What camera did I use for photography? You mean, just my whatever iPhone I have these days. I used to have an ELPH. The first digital camera I had was an ELPH, and took some of the the last months of Enterprise, I got it. And so for the next few years, and then the good iPhones came out within 6, 7, 8 years. I haven't had a big 35 millimeter digital SLR in ages, since I gave up my AE1. And all my slides from the 90s and the earlier aughts are all with that. So my mainstream Berman years after the Companion came out. Well, maybe that's your problem, Glenn. Okay. Yeah, Linda, this is what I read the press release real briefly. I was looking more at models than anything, but that's what I understood too. Absolutely. What? Oh, okay. It was Bay Area, huh? Okay. San Fran or Oakland. Bob Wilkins, KTVU Creature Features host. Very good. Makes sense. Oh, that's a good question. That should be in records somewhere. Which dog played the mirror Porthos, the Doberman? I should have tracked that down back in the day. The fake stuffed Porthos. I thought it didn't look too bad to be in the tank when they're sitting there side by side. But I know. Yeah, there's pictures of the two of them side by side. They didn't do that bad a job, do you think? Oh, see, you guys who lived in New York and LA, I was like, we'll never see one. But my first con was there was a dealers group in Oklahoma called OAF, Oklahoma Alliance of Fandom, but they were really dealers who put on little flea market glorified shows with a stage on one end so that whatever comic artist could go down there and talk in the day, and that was it. That was my first overnight con was the second Ocon. You always remember your first, right? Everybody's reporting in here. Put a lawgiver costume together. You guys would love this. So when I'd love to go back at Scarborough, at Sci-Fi Scarborough a few years back. There were a couple of guys walking around in, I want to say Jawa outfits. Anyway, they were Star Wars. They were big brown robes and they had staffs. And I said, wait a minute. And I got them to take their staffs. I pulled their hood down even lower, like where it was drooping down like this, so you couldn't see their face, and stand there. And instead of carry their staff like this, hold it like this. And I said, look, you've instantly crossed streams. Now you're a couple of lawgivers from Beta 3. And they were just looking like, what? I have a picture of that somewhere. It was funny. I thought it was funny. Thank you, Captain. I wish I had more of a story mind. When I was a kid, I wrote some plays in grade school and some episodes I wrote an episode of the Flintstones and an episode of the Beverly Hillbillies. But ever since junior high, I've been totally a nonfiction reader and writer. Thank you for the encouragement there, Justin. We're working on it. We are slowly inching our way along. I am the law. The law. I'm sure you can order. The Book of Grudge came out January 4th, so I'm sure you can. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they're not thrilled to make another one. Yeah. They called it Codename Uncle. That may have been a German. I think it was called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. in the States because they weren't about to give up that much marketing familiarity. But yeah, Henry Cavill. Or is it Cavill? I've never thought about it. Okay. Oh, you like who was this? You like the Bewitched movie? Yeah. Bad movies. Okay. I am looking. Oh, Zahir. So Persis Kambata, you're talking about. The actress who played Ilea was well known in India. She was a Miss India and did films. Was she known in the States? No. She was after the motion picture. She did a few other roles, and then she had some kind of a illness anyway, she died way too soon. She had some kind of a physical something or a disease and died way too young after just a few years, within 10 years of the motion picture. She did do cons. She did public appearances. I have 2 or 3 slides of her doing a signing where she's just got black and white photos and her movie photo and she's signing. I think it's a Trek promotional event, not so much a con. But yeah. But she went way before her time and way before she didn't see Star Trek. She saw the movies 1 and 2 and 3-ish, but she was gone way too soon. Did a few things. Persis, you left us too soon. Okay. Are we getting to the end of the chat, guys? Nope, I never listened. I've got to look this up. Ronnie Cox and his Matchbox Orchestra. I'll have to check that out. Hey, Stephen, you must be new with us today. But thank you for being here and for sharing this. A TV commercial circa the mid-70s when you were in junior high. What part of New York? or some other part of the country. I remember seeing that first that oaf convention for WinterCon 76. Blew your mind. Yeah. Because that's part of what Joan Winston writes about, but that's what Sandra Marshak and Jacqueline Lichtenberg write about in Star Trek Lives. The first wave of Star Trek fandom wasn't just I love the show and let's bring it back. The first thing was I'm sitting here in Bug Tussle, I'm sitting here in Rainbow Valley all by myself, and I like the show, and maybe I've got one other friend and we would watch it together. But our Star Trek fandom world is us. It ain't about pandemic. It ain't about not being able to afford long distance. It's you have no idea that anybody else in the country feels the way you do. So whenever you see a story about this convention in New York, you go, oh my God, I'm not alone. Marshak and Culbreth called it Marshak and Lichtenberg called it the discovery effect. When you discovered that other people liked the same thing you did, i.e. Star Trek, that's so hard for anybody pre-internet, pre-digital, pre-socials to understand. But that was part of the shockwave of Star Trek riffling through. Then you were like, well, I'm not in New York and LA. It'll never be here. And then within a year or two or three, there were conventions near you. Now, some of them were flops because people's starry eyes exceeded their grasp. And sometimes people would plunk down money to get a star in and then not only go broke, but not be able to pay the actor. That was sad. There was a whole learning curve through that. But that discovery effect of going, oh my God, I'm not alone. Oh my God, there's something near me. Oh my God. Oh my God. That wave in the pre-internet era was something else as well. And that was a big part of this whole thing too. And why you had the mobs and the crowds. People thought, I'll never be, people would like come in from around the country because there'll never be anything like this near me. I have to go to LA or New York to get this kind of an event experience. Yeah. Yes, there is a Quantum Leap reboot at least announced and planned. We will see what happens. What do you say? You want to read the Larry Nemecek fanfics? I didn't write fan fiction. Those scripts no longer exist, I don't think. I think I may have a copy of something where it was like written for somebody. I would there was a master, and then I would just write the parts. So it would have like, it would say, Fred, Wilma, I'm home. And then Wilma, Barney, Betty, Dino, Pebbles, Fred, and then have Fred, because I'm handwriting these things in class or at recess in the second grade. So, okay, so don't get too excited about it. But I wish I had the fiction writing gene still. Mm-hmm. Oh, I've heard of this. The El Presidente. Yeah. The El Cortez also was where early cons were. Yeah. The Bonaventure. That was Bijo's con, right? I think. Yeah. Fantasy Con. Something like that. And that the Bonaventure is still downtown. I remember the TV version of Logan's Run. I remember those publicity pictures. They used the Bonaventure downtown LA because it was so futuristic looking. Oh, well. We will try to overlook that huge mistake. There we go. Thank you, Christoph, for checking the global side of things. The Book of Grudge is out everywhere, wherever fine cat Star Trek books are sold. It's kind of what I thought, too. That Superman actor who was always miserable doing MOS could actually act. Yeah. Henry Cavill was not just a pretty face and pretty. Mm-hmm. The original Napoleon Solo on some Star Trek. Robert Vaughn never did a Star Trek. Sadly. Yeah. Okay, we're getting down to the end of the thing. I'm fine with that. Yeah, he plays Elia Mallard. Yeah. Oh, well, Glenn, I guess apparently you never saw me doing slideshows all through the 90s. The in-joke things were staples in my con show when I would do Between the Cracks. Yep, Forbin, Yo-Yo there's many more. There's not only a Spacely Sprockets, but there is Cogswell Cogs. Spacely! Ooh, Cogswell. Okay. I didn't have favorites. I just watched the show. I knew that the girls were crazy about Elia. And I remember realizing later on that wasn't a Russian actor. That was David McCallum was just an American, but he had that Slavic look. Okay, we're getting there. Well, this is a good question, Stingray. I had forgotten that the CW Star Trek show. See, I still think that was going to be Academy. Starfleet Academy 90210. Yeah, I could go anywhere. We don't know details about that, but that would be interesting to get in and research either now or when the dust is cleared. What was going to happen, what was to be. It would be just the latest in all those. Oh, well, it was not to be. No, William, I did not know that Jackie Gleason was your distant cousin. Because you were in Oklahoma and he was in Florida. Miami Beach. Let's see. Yes, other series have used the Griffith Observatory for exterior shots, including Voyager, obviously, when they used it as Voyager, as the as the observatory. Yep. Interstitial music. Yeah, don't know. Okay, I think we're at the end of the chat, everybody. I think we're at the end of the chat. So, just want to remind everybody, thanks for being with us. I hope I planted a flag for the original, not just the fact that the original Star Trek convention, for what it was about and why it was significant, besides just a piece of fun history, but the fact that nobody talked about it. Okay, maybe one or two isolated articles, but none of our bigwigs in Trek media marked it, which I'm still shocked about. And nobody reminded me until Sunday. And then I thought, okay, then I will talk about it Tuesday. Otherwise, there's everything going on in Star Trek right now. We've got people are excited about Playmates and merchandise. People are excited about online, STO, all the games, and of course, all the Star Trek coming around the corner. I've got 2 or 3 things I'm trying to get out from under right now and get onto, because I can't wait to start talking about this new wave of creatives. Aaron Walke, I'm looking at you. All the Hageman brothers. We got Mike finally on our open house for Portal 47 last year, and in an ongoing way. And not just the showrunners, but the writers up and down the line. People got one, Sean Cochran, I'm looking at you. And congrats, Sean, for being an original, quiet little Discovery writer who's hung in there and climbed the ladder and is now out front above the line. Very, very nice. He's in the opening credits, as well as Sonequa and other people who are piling up their contract year by year. So what am I doing here? I do want to close it up today, but not until we say we say that I'm glad I was able to bring this back up because something that's that important deserves to have its 50th. I'm just amazed that Star Trek, who is crazy about its 50ths, much less its 25ths, nobody's talking about it. But now we have. So, yay. I've also, of course, as always, thrilled to talk to you about my Patreon folk and the fact that you can jump in and be in our Patreon too. It's small, it's simple, it's helping me expand this, what we're doing here, and live support live too. It's very simple, $5-10. The shout outs and access to our early interviews, patreon.com/Trekland Live. This is the time of the month that they'll be taking it on the 1st. So this is the last chance for January to get in, if that's motivating you at all. Otherwise, thanks everybody for your support of the Trek Files, my podcast from Roddenberry. You can check out all the other podcasts at Roddenberry there at roddenberry.com, podcast.roddenberry.com. We will be back in February. We're celebrating our 4th anniversary right now. It's pretty awesome. 7 seasons, 24 episodes apiece, worth of great people, and some folks who have passed. We had Dorothy in, we had Richard Arnold in as guests. So that's one thing I love doing, is getting folks on tape publicly and out there. That's the great thing about podcasts, right? Otherwise, also on Saturdays, Life Support Live, Dr. Ali and Dr. Trek. Going boldly through uncertain times with our lifers community, a lot of whom are here today as TTLers. 10 a.m. Saturdays, 1 p.m. Pacific. So that's 6 Eastern, that's 6 UK time and 7 Central Europe. So again, another chance to meet some global fans and intermix in a great way that way. We'll see what our theme is this week. It will probably be something out of the Prodigy finale, which is coming up tomorrow night. I think I did everything. I think we got through everything, aside from saying, if you have not already done it, please subscribe to us at YouTube, Larry Nemecek's Trekland. Also, that's Facebook, where you are right now too, and Instagram. It's just Larry Nemecek on Twitter. Portal47.net. Check it out. If you've never heard of Portal 47 and you're curious, or you keep hearing me talk, it's basically a deep dive. We say it's a mini con all year long, several features every month, and a couple of live ones. From time to time, we have a special. We just went through all the Hollywood specials round, so hang with me or jump in whenever. That's it for me, gang. Thanks so much for joining me once again. Everybody take care of yourselves out there, okay? Enjoy the trek. Enjoy each other. Just when you're doing it, stay healthy. Do all the things. When you're online checking things out, hey, something seems odd, or somebody pulls you into a situation, I say stay woke, check the sources. But if someone's throwing some new info at you that may challenge your worldview, check them out and then give them a listen. I think most of the folks on here are pretty open-minded, but sometimes it's what we're not expecting that gets us. So watch out for the blinders. They'll bite you in the butt if you're not sure, if you're not careful. You can be watching ahead too much and forget what's happening to the sides and behind you. Oh my gosh, Larry, hang it up and just say, Trek well, everybody.